Published 0248 EDT, the 29th of August 2017. Updated 0248 EDT, the 29th of August 2017. I worked for a large company from 1974 until 1988, and during this time I paid into the company pension. In 1978 I transferred into a revamped scheme. In 1988 I started with the civil service, and just under 9 years pension was transferred over from that company. In 2013 I received correspondence that the company pension scheme was being computerized and received an ID and login code. I wrote to them asking the question, have I a pension with you? Pension error. What can you do if a scheme overpays you by mistake and wants the money back? No response, but I got further correspondence asking how I wanted this pension paid when I reached 62. I thought this must be the previous pension from 1974 to 1978, which I had totally forgotten about. I was paid a lump sum of £14,000 and a small monthly pension. 3 years later they wrote and said, sorry, our mistake, but I need to repay nearly £18,000. I am partially retired and do not have the resources to repay this money, which at the time I used to purchase an 8-year-old car and clear credit card debt. Am I legally obliged to repay this money, for which I believe the company, pension managers, accountants and auditors have been negligent and culpable? Would a derisory amount be legally acceptable if I did have to repay? Steve Webb. Find out how to ask the former pensions minister a question about your retirement savings in the box below. Scroll down to find out how to ask Steve your pension question. Steve Webb replies, I'm afraid that you are far from being alone in your experiences. Pension schemes do, from time to time, make mistakes and pay people too little or, as in your case, too much. Obviously, when the mistake is not discovered for some years, it can create a particular problem because you may well have spent some or all of the money. The short answer is that the trustees of the scheme are within their rights to seek repayment of money which they paid in error. However, there are various ways in which the impact on you can be reduced. First of all, you can challenge whether you really are entitled to the money. In your case it sounds as though it is pretty clear that you had transferred out of the scheme, so probably were not entitled, but you should certainly ask for a very clear statement, with supporting evidence, of why they think you are not entitled. Second, if it is agreed that you must pay back the full amount, you can certainly ask for the repayment to be made over a period of time rather than as a lump sum. This is especially true when the mistake is theirs rather than yours, and if you can show that you could not reasonably have been expected to know a mistake had been made, the Pensions Advisory Service is the first place to turn. You then have the option of taking your case to the Pensions Ombudsman if you are dissatisfied by the outcome. Read more here. They may ask you for evidence of your income and outgoings so they can work out at what rate you can afford to repay the money. Third, you could argue that some or all of this money that was paid in error should be written off. If the pension scheme does not respond positively to this suggestion, you may wish to enlist the help of the free and independent Pensions Advisory Service (TPAS). TPAS advisors are very experienced in helping resolve disputes of this sort. Every case has to be treated on its own merits, but some of the money you have been paid has clearly now been spent, such as the money you used to clear the credit card debt, and it might not be reasonable to recover it. On the other hand, the fact that you still own the car that you bought with the money may mean that the pension scheme insists on recovering that part of the overpayment. I do appreciate that this all seems very unfair given that this does not appear to have been your fault. You can read more about mistakes and overpayments on TPAS's website here. Former Pensions Minister Steve Webb is This Is Money's agony uncle. He is ready to answer your questions, whether you are still saving, in the process of stopping work, or juggling your finances in retirement. Since leaving the Department of Work and Pensions after the May 2015 election, Steve has joined pension firm Royal London as Director of Policy. If you would like to ask Steve a question about pensions, please email him at pensionquestions@thisismoney.co.uk. Steve will do his best to reply to your message in a forthcoming column, but he won't be able to answer everyone or correspond privately with readers. Nothing in his replies constitutes regulated financial advice. Published questions are sometimes edited for brevity or other reasons. Please include a daytime contact number with your message. This will be kept confidential and not used for marketing purposes. If Steve is unable to answer your question, you can also contact the Pensions Advisory Service, a government-backed organization which gives free help to the public. TPAS can be found here and its number is 0300 123 1047. Steve receives many questions about state pension forecasts and COPE, the contracted out pension equivalent. If you are writing to Steve on this topic, he responds to a typical reader question here. It includes links to Steve's several earlier columns about state pension forecasts and contracting out, which might be helpful.